Welcome to another edition of Common Algebra. This video is for Algebra 2, Chapter 2, Section 6, Graphing Inequalities. So basically this is a calculator lesson. Just a reminder, we will be solving for y, and when you solve an inequality, please remember that you need to flip the inequality if you multiply or divide both sides by a negative number. The other thing to make note of, just related to an open circle and closed circle on a number line, when we graph the line, it will be solid if it includes the line less than or equal to and greater than or equal to, so that's a solid line. And the graph will be a dashed line if it does not include the line with a less than sign or greater than sign. So before we can graph these on the calculator, we need to turn on the app. So press the app button, which is located right next to the math key, and a menu comes up, and scroll down until you see the word in equals, and it is spelled kind of weird like that. So select it, and if there's a message that comes up saying, do you want this running or continue or something, say yes or enter, and then that app will be turned on. So then if you go to the y equals key, some older versions of the calc will have the less than and greater than signs appear at the bottom of the screen. The newer thin calcs, if you want to get the letter greater or less than sign, you have to be on the y equals screen and then arrow to the left over and highlight over kind of that blue square. And then if you hit enter, a menu comes up, it pops up, and you can choose the color and then scroll through and select the sign that you're working with, greater than, less than, or whatever. Now if you have questions on your particular calculator, please see me. So in this first example, we're asked to graph this inequality. Well, we cannot enter it into the calculator until we've solved for y, so we need to do that first. So start by subtracting a 3x from both sides, and then you need to divide each term by the -4. When we do this, when we divide by a negative, it's like a reminder, this inequality flips. So the less than sign becomes greater, and then I have 3/4 x and a +2. So now we enter this on the y equals screen of our calculator. So select the greater than symbol and enter the rest of the equation. So then in your calc screen you should see something like this. There should be a dashed line. It should pass through 2, and then this entire area above this line would be shaded. Now what that means is that any point that lies inside this shaded area is an answer. So on a test, if I asked you a question like is, say the points right here, is -3 +4 a solution? Well, you would say yes if it lies in the shaded region. If I asked you, is 0, 0 a solution, since that's outside the shaded area, you would say no. And now we are asked to find the domain and range. So the domain of this, our eye is looking sideways. We're looking back and forth, and pretend like the shaded region does keep on going forever. And if it does, if it goes on forever in this direction, it's all shaded, it's going on forever both ways, the domain has no limits, so it's all real numbers. And that should be in set notation. The range, again, now our eye is looking up and down, and this is shaded all the way down this way and all the way up this way. So there's no limit on the range either. So that's all real numbers. right, this next one we're going to graph is an absolute value. It is already solved for y, so that's kind of nice. So you just need to enter it on your calc screen. So go to the y equals key, and then the first thing you want to do is change the symbol to be the greater than or equal to symbol. And now we need to find absolute value on our calc, which is found under the math menu. So hit math, and then you got an arrow to the right over to num, which stands for numbers. And under numbers comes up a menu. And the first item on that menu is abs, which stands for absolute value. So select that, and if you select that from the y equals screen, it'll bring that right where you need it. And then enter this x minus 2, which is a subtract side, x subtract 2, inside the absolute value. And then you've got to arrow out. You need to arrow over to get out of the absolute value, and then you can hit the subtract 3. So now when you graph that, you should get something like this. The vertex would be over here at positive 2, negative 3, and since it's a greater than, everything above this V would be shaded in. So now looking at that on the calc screen, we can determine the domain and range. The domain, remember, your eye is looking this way, right to left, and this shaded area goes on forever in that direction, so the domain is all real numbers. The range, however, does have a limitation on it. This graph does not exist down here in the negative values. It finally starts existing right here at negative 3. And of course it keeps on going infinitely up here in the positive direction. So we would write the range then